You guys got some friends?
Touch
that
it,
can
I keep
text?
it.
Tell them to vote. We'll give you some stickers.
We'll give you some stickers.
Yeah, you want a Harris Wall sticker?
I don't know if we want those stickers.
look good,
want
right?
those stickers,
Hey, well,
man. I
in the
don't know.
If you have like a
Friendship,
sticker with maybe
we
a
have a
dinosaur
lot of other
on it,
stickers
yeah,
that
I
you
would
guys
like.
want.
Okay, we have
those.
some neat
Yeah.
stickers
Yeah.
as well. I see. Okay, so we're giving out stickers. Hey, did you
Stickers, y'all?
texting your friends to vote? Well, I mean, I'm sure you guys are getting a lot of support in this area. Is that correct?
A lot of people are interested in the stickers, yeah.
For
And-
sure. For
yeah,
sure.
and I think for sure people are interested in
Harris
supporting
Walls.
the Harris Wall ticket.
Right
here.
on, right on. Nice looking hat. Not as nice as a MAGA hat though.
It seems like it's kind of a similar style, right?
Yeah, they're trying. I don't know. It doesn't. I'm not going to say it looks. I'm not going to say the style looks bad. But you gotta. We gotta swap that out, man. So what's going on?
MAGA hat.
Why are you? We might actually. So why are you supporting Harrison Walls? What's going on, man?
Yeah, I think Kamala Harris will make a great president. I think we want 4 more years of good economic
this.
progress. We've had wages beating inflation for 2 straight years, every single month.
Wages are still down, actually.
Wages are
Real
beating-
wages are still down.
You're talking about over the 4-year period when we were coming out of the biggest pandemic in a century, when we had an economic collapse.
Yes.
We've seen economic growth for 4 straight years. We're beating the projections of the economy pre-COVID at this point, beating every developed economy on the globe.
So Kamala's going to be much better for the economy than Trump, you would argue?
Yes, I very much argue that. I think Trump's tariff plan is very alarming. I think a 20% increase on everything we import is like a lot. It's a
we
lot of
buy
it's a
on
global
Amazon
economy
all the
here.
time.
I think that's really alarming. I think a lot of people here can't afford a 20% increase in what they're paying for groceries or imports or things they buy on Amazon or wherever.
Yeah.
In fact, we've seen price increases squeeze people, right?
Yeah.
We don't want that to keep going. I also think Trump's plan to deport 10 to 20 million. He says 20 million. I don't think there's that many undocumented immigrants in the country, but however many,
Minimum over the last 3.5 years has been about 10 under this administration.
Yeah,
So that's on top of what was already here.
right, to deport that many people, sounds to me like a serious economic catastrophe. Because I mean, a lot of these
We
people are
need the
working.
cheap illegal labor for the economy.
I would say that immigration is America's economic strength.
Legal immigration or illegal?
Legal, and I think we need an immigration deal that will actually, solve our immigration problem. And
I mean, you had an administration that not only caused this problem but helped facilitate it when it comes to importing 10 million illegal immigrants. What do you think about that?
That's, I think, the way you phrase it.
Fair enough.
Immigration's been an issue that both parties have kind of either ignored or used to just get voters and then never tried to solve. And I think the immigration deal on the table is a good one. I mean, I think there's more that needs to be added to
What are you
it.
talking about, the Senate bill?
Yes, the Senate bill. And I think, a President Harris said that she would put that bill back on the table. It looks like most Senate Republicans liked it.
Let's talk about that bill.
Sure.
Okay, most Senate Republicans liked it. Who supported it in the Senate? How many Republicans supported it in the Senate then?
Okay, so the bill before it comes out, Trump tanks it, right? Trump's calling them up, telling them don't pass this bill because he prefers to run on the problem than solve the problem.
Tell me about the bill. What's going on? What is?
Yeah, so the bill would offer the president the authority to shut down the border if there's like too many undocumented crossings in a day.
And how many?
You tell me, was it 5,000? I don't quote me on that. But the bigger thing is that the bill supports judges and enforcement on the border. So the biggest problem was the asylum loophole.
Yeah.
Immigrants could come in, claim asylum, and it takes like 2 years, 2.5 years to get a hearing. It used to be like 6 months, and then because of COVID, like the courts were closed, and that just dramatically lengthened the amount of time until they could get their hearing.
Do you mind if I add something to this?
Yeah,
And I'll let you
sure.
touch on this because I just want to ask you
But
before
just
I
wanna finish
address
that
the
point,
Senate
but-
bill. Oh, please,
because
please.
I just want to finish that point because closing the asylum loophole, that was the biggest incentive that led to this rush of people coming in. And if you close that, if people have they get a hearing in 6 weeks and then they're either kicked out of the country or allowed to stay, then the entire loophole, the entire reason they're coming in is gone.
Yeah.
That would, and we've seen like that can reduce the flow of immigration coming in.
So before I address the Senate bill, I just want to ask you, that's 3.5 years in about, what's the reasoning for ignoring the border crisis for the last 3.5 years before that?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think that the Biden-Harris administration, the first bill they put on the table was an immigration bill. This has been a really difficult issue to legislate on because the parties have been far apart. And again, I think we saw with former President Trump, there's no deal that he can accept because he prefers the problem
Well, let's talk about that because, I mean, you talked about, okay, well, some Republicans supported the Senate bill. There was one Republican in the Senate that supported the bill. Not a popular bill. Yeah, and it was when it comes down to that, you had Obama that shut down negotiations. Republicans were actually trying to negotiate the Senate bill, and the bill that they actually didn't negotiate was actually HR 2 1 year prior that reinstated policies that were working. You're talking about when Biden and Harris took office, the first thing that they actually did was undo years of effective border policy, not just Trump's, but years of effective border policy, virtually opening up the entire border, reinstated catch and release, pulling out of the Remain in Mexico agreement, all of these things. We had a 40-year low of illegal crossings under Trump and before and after COVID, okay? These policies were working, and then what happened right when they got in office, right? Automatically halted construction of the border wall, reinstated catch and release, which just says, hey, if you come in, we'll let you roam around the country. So now we have mass unvetted migration, and all that Senate bill did was codify into law that we're okay with 1.8 million illegals coming to the country per year. That's what it did, and that's why people fought against it. So Republicans, yes. So Republicans were actually trying to negotiate this bill, which was packed with billions of dollars for Ukraine and all that stuff. They were actually trying to, unlike the bill 1 year prior, which was dead on Chuck Schumer's desk. So if anything, that shows me that Republicans were trying to work on it more with Democrats than Democrats were trying to work with Republicans on it 1 year prior. But again, the excuse for opening up the border, and not just that, but saying that there was no border crisis the 3.5 years prior to the Senate bill, what is it?
Yeah. Let me start by saying I'm not a representative of the Harris-Wallace campaign. I'm a volunteer. But
I mean, totally. And you're a very friendly guy, but I just want to know.
No, sure, yeah. I want to address that.
What is it?
I want to address that. Yeah. So, the 1.8 number again. It's not the 5,000 people coming through and then the border shuts down. That was negotiated by one of the most conservative members of the U.S. Senate, and it's not about the number that could add up to. The point being, the limited number of asylum seekers coming in and the increase in the number of judges closes the loophole by which these people could stay in the United States indefinitely. And it removes the incentive for them to cross an entire continent just to get into the country.
Do you mind if I add, the incentive to cross the entire continent is soft border policies that says unvetted mass migration, catch and release is reinstated. This doesn't really justify reinstating catch and release. It doesn't justify pulling out of the Remain in Mexico agreement.
I'm getting to some of that. So you talked about when Trump left office, why there was a surge in migration. I'll give it to you. Some of it was that they tried to, they changed some rules. They were hoping to get a deal done. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a deal done, and I'm hoping we will in the next administration. But
who changed some rules? I'm sorry.
The Biden-Harris administration.
On day one.
So now, the main reason a lot of people came streaming into this country, though, is because our economy came roaring back from the COVID pandemic recession better than any developed country on earth. These people are not coming to take money out of your pocket. They're coming to deliver your food, wash your clothes, care for your kids. These are hard-working people.
I know many of them are, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think most people acknowledge that as well.
Some of them came and did awful things. We know that. That's any 10 million people, you're going to have some cases.
Well, people that aren't supposed to be in the country in the first place, and they're not being vetted at the southern border.
Fair enough, and we should vet people coming. We should have a real policy, and that's why I support Kamala Harris for president of the United States. Because
for the last 3.5 years, unvetted mass migration.
I want an immigration deal. That's why I'm supporting Kamala Harris.
But the last 3.5 years, unvetted mass migration, and not only that, but denying that there was a border crisis in the first place. You had Mayorkas, you had Harris, you had Biden, all saying that there was no border crisis during the worst border crisis in American history. What's your excuse for that?
I mean, I'm not here to make excuses for anybody. Like,
what would your why? Like, do you say they did that?
Yeah.
I would say that's large. I would say that's
opinion.
wildly unacceptable, and that's undeserving
Sure.
of a second term. But you say, hey, you know what? I don't care about you guys lying to the American people about the worst crisis in American history. You have Americans being murdered by illegals that are coming in the country because they're being unvetted. You have people that are being sexually assaulted. You have crimes. You have Midtown Manhattan. 75% of arrests right now are illegal immigrants in Midtown Manhattan, according to NYPD. I'm not making this stuff up. And I'm not even trying to do a gotcha here or anything. Again, you seem like a nice guy. But I think that being honest about the situation is really what I should be doing and you should be doing as well when it comes to, okay, well, the worst crisis in American history, Americans are dying, and we're just saying, oh, go for it again? Oh, and she's going to fix it this time after 3.5 years of ignoring it?
Running out of Harris stickers.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, that seems wild to me.
I understand the concern, and I feel like a lot of people feel like Democrats didn't take immigration seriously for a long time.
No, they actively undid policy. They actively sued border states for trying to do something about it. They actively helped facilitate more human smuggling. This is wildly out of control.
I don't know if you can hear me when I'm not on the microphone, but I just don't see it the same way.
What am I wrong about right there?
I think that the Democrats have taken this issue seriously, but have wanted Republicans to meet them where they haven't met them because Republicans have ignored DACA. They talked about a wall that would never have worked when most people are coming through ports of entry. You know, they don't want to solve the asylum loophole.
The wall doesn't work.
The wall, so I mean, Trump ran on the wall back when most immigrants were coming through ports of entry. Obviously, things have changed.
I mean, there's a
And now
massive
he's not
amount of people
talking
that
about
come
the wall.
across. You can walk across the southern border. At least
I know,
put a.
but Trump's not talking about the wall. I've noticed he's not really talking about the wall. I don't know what he's talking about. The man doesn't make much sense when he's talking.
He's talking about closing the southern border instead of letting criminals, rapists, murderers coming across the southern border unvetted. That seems fairly reasonable.
I think that's.
You could be a classical liberal and say, yeah, that's fair.
I think
That's
maybe
fair.
you should consider running for office because you just presented that in a really clear,
Oh, thank you very
coherent
much.
way. That's a nice policy proposal. That's not what Trump's saying, though.
But again-
he doesn't really make sense when he's talking.
Okay.
Listen to Joe Rogan's interview last night. You're a podcaster. I think you probably listened to it sometime. The man isn't making much sense. I'm really alarmed about him being our president until he's 82.
Did you support Joe Biden?
We have a president right now who's 81 years old, and I think we as a society have realized there's a lot of problems that can come with that. I think Joe Biden's done a great job.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
really
did you vote for
glad-
him?
I did. I proudly voted
Hey,
for Joe
this
Biden.
guy obviously has dementia. He's in office. He takes more vacation out of any president in certainly the last several decades.
How are you measuring that? Because Trump spent a lot of
Press
time going.
press pool takes notes of that.
Okay, all right. I'll give you that.
Blows him out of the water. In fact, like Bush, I think took a lot of vacation, but nobody's even close to Joe Biden. He works like 4 hours a day, maybe even less. I mean, if you look at his schedule, sometimes it's cleared for an entire week.
Amazing what he gets done in 4 hours compared to Trump, who's apparently working more. With the roaring economy we have, and coming back from COVID.
think most Americans feel that?
faster than inflation. Look, I'm not going to tell people what they feel, but I did vote for Joe Biden. Just to get back to your point, I think he's done a good job. I'm glad he's taking a step back, recognizing that as an 81-year-old.
He was forced out.
I think recognizing as an 81-year-old that he shouldn't be in office anymore, I respect that. And I wish former President Trump would have the humility to say, I served my country for 4 years, now I'm going to take time and let a new generation take over. I'd like to see JD.
Do you mind if I jump in there? I see what you're trying to get at there, but Donald Trump, he's not showing signs of major cognitive decline. Yesterday he just did a show in the morning. He did He did a 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast and did a rally in the evening. The guy's doing that every single day. His schedule's jam-packed. People, I think a lot of Americans don't actually see what you're talking about there. Maybe you don't like him and therefore you're saying, oh, hey, word salads or whatever, which, by the way, Kamala Harris is the founder and CEO of word salads. But I mean, are most Americans seeing him as low energy, tired, and old? No, they're not. They're simply not. That's a tough thing to sell people.
Is Donald Trump too old to be president?
I think cognitive abilities is far more important than age, but yeah, age is certainly important.
Wait. I do think Donald Trump is too old and in cognitive decline to be president. I think he's in significantly more cognitive decline than Joe Biden. That's my opinion, and we can agree to differ.
I'm gonna have to write off that judgment there with that statement.
fine.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
But
We
hold
can
on.
agree to disagree.
Hold on. You did mention again that Democrats were trying the first 3.5 years. Let's go back to the border crisis. Because I said what they were actually doing, which is ignoring the border crisis, saying it wasn't a border crisis during the worst crisis in American history. I want to get really quick.
Worst crisis.
What did they do?
Border
Border crisis. What did they do the first 3.5 years before the Senate bill that you're talking about, which didn't stop illegal immigration?
Yeah. So, again, this is an issue on which people have been evolving for a long time. I think Democrats were slow to talk about this issue. I agree with you on that. And I know there's problems in the party.
dismantling
But Republicans have been slow on a lot of issues too. And I think that's how politics work. It can be slow when the parties are far apart to come to a consensus.
All they have to do is reinstate, by executive order, undo those executive orders that first week in office. That's all they have to do.
Some of those I think they did go back on. But the immigration bill that they came to, you said only one Republican senator supported it.
Yeah, that's correct.
I think only one Republican senator voted for it, or maybe more than one. I'm not sure in the end, but a lot more than that supported it.
They tried to negotiate, yeah.
Donald Trump said he didn't want the bill. And Republican senators, if they know it's good for them, are not opposing Trump. If they know it's good for them politically, they know they're not opposing Trump on this issue. And when Trump said he didn't want this bill to pass,
We're back to talking about the Senate bill, though.
that's what I brought back
My question was, what did they do the first 3.5 years?
Yeah, apparently not enough. That's, I'm sure, what you want to get out of me. Again,
I'm just asking for your honest opinion, but you keep avoiding the answer.
my honest opinion is they were hoping Republicans would come around on issues like DACA and path to citizenship, and they didn't. Donald Trump had a deal on the table for a border wall and DACA, and he rejected it. He could have had his wall.
No, they rejected it. Sorry.
I've got her in.
She works in
I feel
Congress.
like we should rev up here.
I worked at
Oh,
Congress.
wait. Here, hold the microphone.
And I did not prepare for this.
Hold the microphone.
John,
Hey,
nice to meet you.
nice to meet you too. I'm Greg. I'm a Democrat, and I'm getting triple teams.
I'm not I'm just a Halloween celebrator.
I'm just an independent voter.
Exactly. That's
I'm
literally
just an
me.
independent Donald Trump supporter.
It's true. I'm a political moderate. I wonder how you can argue that the Harris administration seeks to solve the border crisis if, like you mentioned on day one, you're undoing via executive action things like the Remain in Mexico policy. And then two, you have Democrats who are high-ranking, whether it's Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, even now saying that they want to pursue something resembling an amnesty, a pathway to citizenship. And so, thank you. So you have multiple. Oh yeah, we have to. We believe in equality on this channel. So you have a situation where you have, the bat signal going up to have people flood into the country. They get here now. You have more judges maybe under your administration, which would only expedite the process by which they're granted asylum. How can you not see all of those things as simply increasing the pouring of people over our southern border?
So I think what you guys are getting at is that their hearts are in the wrong place, the Democrats, because they went 3.5 years, as you say, doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I would differ, but you say their heart's in the wrong place. How can we trust them to solve this issue? And I say, Donald Trump's a transactionalist. So what you do is you trust the political incentives that are in place. The pressure's been put on Democrats to solve this issue, and they responded. They presented a bill that, solve is a strong word, but would take significant steps to solve the border crisis and address a lot of the problems we face, the problems that you experienced doing immigration casework, And I think we should take that. I think we should take a deal on the table and take a candidate who has an incentive to solve this problem.
Sure.
I don't think Donald Trump has that incentive. I think his incentive is to this is a complicated issue. When you have a complicated issue, you can always say something isn't good enough. There's a real problem. There's 10 million people. Some of them committed murder. You can always make people mad and speak to the evil inside that rests in every human.
Yeah.
I think we need better than that. I think we need a president who wants to solve this issue, and whether it's because her heart's in the right place, or because the political pressure and incentives are aligned for her to solve it. That's one reason. This isn't my top issue. I know it's your guys' top issue.
I would say the reason we saw the bill is exactly because of that political pressure. I mean, Americans, be them Republicans or independents, were expressing immigration as one of their top issues moving into this election. And when Americans say that they view immigration to be a political issue, what that means is whatever's going on right now, I would like to stop, which is the mass importation of people from God knows where coming in through the southern border. And so I don't think that, as my buddy mentioned, codifying these practices into law is exactly a solution. I don't think it's a solution to simply divert more resources to expedite the process of these people coming in and being granted asylum. I don't think it's legitimate to say if your country's a bad place, you can come and see. I mean, what's the saying? Like, an asylum seeker is simply an illegal immigrant with a lawyer. I mean, they teach them, just say that your country's war-torn, say you're a refugee, and then, by our process, because we're such empathetic people, we have to, go along with that. But it's hard for me to think that their heart was in the right place when on day one they were undoing via executive action all of those things. I mean, you're mentioning passing things through the legislature. You're the commander-in-chief. You don't even have to do that. You can wield via executive action, which is why Trump did that and reduced crossings. Biden-Harris did that and then increased crossings.
Crossings shut down because of the pandemic just brought down.
At a historic low before. Sorry to
It
interrupt you guys.
brought our economy to a screeching halt, and the asylum rule
of Trump's administration.
The asylum loophole was getting exploited at the end of Trump's term. That chart that he was pointing at when he was nearly assassinated, it's his favorite chart. It shows that this
saved his life right there.
Thank God. Thank God. Please, yes. Awful what happened, and thank God he survived. But the chart shows a spike before the end of his term. So the asylum loophole was getting exploited. Now, Trump, I'm sure, would have devoted more of his second term, if he had won it, to trying to stop that surge. Harris and Biden were focused on reviving the economy, getting shots in the arms, and any president is not omnipotent. They got things they have to focus on. So I appreciate that.
Can I ask you something really quick?
Yeah, sure.
Do you mind if I? Do you mind if I ask you? You can hold on to it, man. You're good. We trust you. We trust you. We trust you. Do you mind if I ask you?
Way too long.
I wanted to ask you. Do you think that Donald Trump? Do you agree with Kamala Harris saying the other day that Donald Trump is a fascist?
I had this argument with my friends the other day, and they're just like, "Come on, man! Like, honest to God, I do believe it, but I don't think that's an argument worth making in the streets because then we're arguing about what the definition of a fascist is. I don't think that.
Sure, that's fine. What is it?
I don't want to get the definition wrong, but I'll get close. I mean, I don't think that he's committed to democracy. I think he's more into his image and his effort to rule by fiat. I think he doesn't like accountability, whether it's of the voters or of the legal system or some other form of cultural.
I'll just throw it out there.
Sure.
So
I'm sure you memorized it.
Well, I've done videos talking about this before, and there's a few different definitions, right? But you can just sum it up to centralized autocracy, anti-individualistic at its core.
Yeah.
You can also, the merger between corporate and state
Corporate
powers.
And
And then, the forcible oppression of political opposition.
there's a cult of personality,
If you were to ask
a
me-
single party.
If you were to ask me who right now has been more authoritarian, Donald Trump's first term or Biden and Harris, Joe Biden is the greatest centralizer of power of the executive branch in American history.
You think so?
100%.
Well, we can agree to disagree on that one. I guess.
Bypassing Congress, using OSHA to enforce vaccine mandates, or threatening to get people fired if they don't, threatening to put out businesses via fines if they don't. This stuff is wildly unacceptable. Let's talk about the First Amendment. What about the our Disinformation Governance Board, a literal ministry of truth that they established? I mean, that's a serious. That's the biggest violation of First Amendment rights, certainly in American history.
Hey, that's why we have a constitution, baby.
Yeah.
And
I could keep going. Bypassing Congress
that's
again,
why I'm
using
voting
the
for
CDC to enforce federal eviction
candidate who
moratorium.
doesn't want to terminate the Constitution on day one.
I mean,
Oh, you
look
should
at
be a
these
dictator on
actions,
day one.
though. You can look at these actions and you can say, look, that is objectively authoritarian. You know, it's not authoritarian. Fighting for free speech, fighting for gun rights. Why would an authoritarian want people to enjoy celebrating individualism by being able to arm themselves, by being able to speak their minds? So why is that?
I think you guys.
You see what I'm saying? Is that a good point? Or
No,
not?
some of it. I think you're still living in a world where you have a normal Republican nominee who didn't try to overturn the results of an election he lost, who, believes in democracy, believes that in the Constitution, and believes that his military should. I know I'm getting you guys riled up again. Like I want to wrap this up a little bit.
Riled up? No, this is a great conversation. Are you kidding?
Sure, great. But I don't think Donald Trump is committed to democracy, and I think Kamala Harris is. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Tried to litigate his way to victory like Gore did in 2000, right?
Come on.
Well,
Can't
actually,
compare
I
these
want
things.
to touch on that.
I know
really
your
quick.
viewers are.
What about
you? Had a good point there. I don't. Think
Well, no. How about this? I mean, Democrats objected to the electoral votes in 2000, 2004, 2016. A senator joined in on 2004. You have the last three elections that a Republican won that were challenged by Democrats. So what's your excuse for that? Saying that he tried to overturn it. What about that?
Yeah, January 6th was not the same as filing a case in 2000 when Florida was decided by one precinct. I think the American people can tell the difference between what happened in 2020 and what happened in all the elections prior.
So the riot is okay, hey, that's them trying to take power. And I just took a step down. People are going to be like, why am I all short now? This guy's taller than me.
You should put this hat on you. If Biden can wear...
That's going to get clipped right
If
there.
Biden can wear a Trump
get
hat,
clipped right there.
I think you can rock this for a little.
I told you already. The style of the hat is. I'll give you that.
What's JK? Is that the name of your podcast?
Yeah. James
So
Klug.
I recognize you. I saw you with Billboard Chris.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Because
I think he's an interesting guy. He gets up there and he just keeps a straight face.
Are we pro sex changes for children on that position?
I'm just out here talking about that.
That's another one that we're you see the Democrats supporting that, Tim Walz supporting that, and I say I don't think anybody's vote should be going to somebody like that.
I personally I don't support, but I think that
It's wild.
we have two choices for president, and you pick and choose the things you
So
Do
you
you
think
guys
then-
agree with everything Donald Trump supports?
every single thing? But if I were you, then you think that the sex
I
changes
like the
for
Trump
children.
hat he's wearing, by the way.
This is a pumpkin hat. I don't know what you're talking about. But you think that even with the sex changes for kids, that is a closer approximation to the world you want to live in than what Republicans want with freedom, gun rights, secure
No,
border,
I think that this is an
America being
issue-
great again.
I think this is an issue that the American people are still forming their thoughts on. And I think if you put Trump in office, you're going to lose the center on that issue. And I think if you put Kamala Harris in office, you're going to win the center on that issue. That's my personal opinion. My personal advice for you guys.
The transgender for kids, you think that Republicans are going to lose public opinion on that issue?
For children.
If Trump is reelected, I think they start to lose public opinion.
It's funny, they've been using that in elections over the last 3 years, places in Florida, and it's been flipping all the districts.
Keep doing it then, huh?
Well, I mean, I think people just find it to be a little bit. I think some people might draw the line at sex changes for children.
Yeah, sure. And to each his own. I just think
To each their own.
her own, right?
Hey,
I appreciate talking.
No. You've given us. I mean, you already said it twice.
Really-
You've given us way too much of your time, and I do thank you for
John,
giving us your
thank
time.
you.